What's up, people? It's your boy Bruffett back for another one. If you're new to the channel, please hit the like and subscribe button so you can follow along as I journey to Category A. So this is stage one of the Tour de Zwift race, or the Tour de Zwift. I guess it's not supposed to be a race, even though somebody forgot to give the rest of the riders the memo, because this was definitely a race. So as you can see, traditional races, we came out the gate strong. Everybody was pushing major watts out of the gate in order to establish position. So right away I go to the front. Actually, this race, I felt pretty good overall about this race. A lot of the training that I've been doing has made me much more confident about this race. This is probably the first race where I actually was excited to see hills, because I feel like climbing hills now, I'm much better at climbing hills, and I feel like it gives me a distinct advantage overall in racing. So my goal for this race was pretty much to stay as much as possible in the front race. With it only being about 15 miles long, I knew this was going to be an aggressive race. What was surprising is the number of attacks that happened during this race. It seemed like at every hill, every people were attacking. It seemed like that was a consistent strategy throughout the race, is on the hills to make an attack. I like tour races, I like tour races because they tend to mix A category runners with, well, all the categories are essentially mixed together, and the ride itself or the race itself kind of just breaks up the group. So with being in the front pack, that enabled me to be up in the front with more A category racers, so I could test my skill and my fitness against some of the stronger riders in the pack. So for the bulk of this race, I had to push probably about 400, 350, 400 watts the entire race. I really enjoyed and appreciated the power-ups. It was the draft and the feather power-ups this race, which greatly benefited me, especially the feather power-up. That greatly benefited me because the hills, although they weren't that intense this race, they were pretty steep, and with me being a heavier rider, I definitely benefited from the feather power-up. So I think this is probably the first hill that we come to, or the first incline that we come to. As you can see, the feathers are starting to pop up. I didn't have a feather at this point. I just had a draft boost. Didn't really need it. Again, with the training that I've been doing, I've been spending a lot of time training for heels, but not only training for heels, for training for the recovery that comes with the heels. Because usually it's not the hills that take you out. It's after you climb a hill, if it takes so long to recover, that's when the group can kind of break away from you. So not only have I been focusing on just getting up hills faster, but I've really been focusing a lot of my additional training or auxiliary training on recovering from an intense level of work, like climbing a hill faster. So you can see this rider doing the breakaway right now. I'm in second place. I mean, there were breakaways continuously throughout this race. I think initially everybody came into this race with a plan, and then as the hills came, that was the equivalent to a punch in the face. And so, what was it? It was Mike Tyson's coach. As said, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. So you could tell that as the hills started to mount and as the fatigue started to mount, a lot of strategies went out the window, and people started just trying to do breakaways with reckless abandon. So here I am, breaking away from the pack. That wasn't my intention. So what I try to do is I started to stay with the pack, and I just don't want, if somebody does break away, I don't want them to get too far away. So I try to run them down, but my strategy, my typical strategy doesn't include breaking away from the pack. So here we're going to our first steep incline. This is the first monster hill that we have to take, and I actually felt pretty good climbing this hill. I didn't really feel fatigued. I've been doing, again, a lot of hill work in my auxiliary training and a lot of recovery work in my auxiliary training, so I wasn't too stressed out about getting up this hill. I knew that if I can maintain 600 watts, I would be able to maintain 600 watts and still have a good amount of recovery on the backside, because that's about what I do in training. And so I felt pretty solid about my conditioning and being able to make it up this hill. I wasn't too nervous. Actually, to be honest with you, I was pretty excited because I knew that this hill was hammering the rest of the pack. And so with me not being too fatigued, again, if you look at my heart rate, it hasn't really increased much from the flat road. And so I felt pretty good going up this hill. Now this is the second part of the hill. As you can see, I cut my feather on, made me lighter. I'm working a little bit more now, but my heart rate still hasn't increased more. It is pretty high. I'm operating in the red zone. I guess that's zone 5. One, two. Yeah, I'm operating in zone 5, but I'm not really too fatigued, to be honest with you. I'm feeling pretty good, and this is the second hill. This is the second part of the first hill. My feathers just went out, so now it's getting a little bit more intense, but I'm still feeling pretty good. Again, I'm hovering at 600 plus watts, trying to make it up the hill, but it's really not killing me. One of the things I'm really focusing on is my heart rate. I don't want to see my heart rate drop too much more, because that means I won't be able to flush the lactic acid out my system as fast as I need to, and that's when you start getting the leg burning and the muscles start shorting out. So thankfully I get, what is this, an arrow? I think I get an arrow boost. This is pretty good. I like this power up also. Actually, all the power ups during this race was actually pretty good. This is a distinct advantage for me going downhill. As you can see, it leaves me, because of my weight, it left me a little bit of opportunity to recover. I didn't really get into the little arrow positioning well, I was able to get into it, as you can see here, but I wasn't able to maintain it as long as I traditionally would have, because these riders were humping. But I did get a little bit of recovery, which I did appreciate, and it did pay off at the end. So again, here I got another arrow boost. We're about to hit another small mountain, not brutal, but again, I'm not really nervous about mountains at all, just because I feel like my conditioning is much better than when I first got on Zwift. Actually, this is probably the first race I was actually looking forward to doing hills. So I have to credit the additional training I've been doing for that. So this was pretty good. I didn't really need a draft boost as much this race. I don't know what it was. Number one, I think because the breakaways were so intense. Draft boost, at least for me, didn't help me much here because I really wasn't in the pack much. There was a constant breakaway, and as like even you can see here, there's a constant breakaway, and so just group riding really was kind of non-existent. So right now we're in the pack. This is another small hill that we're climbing. I'm feeling pretty good, but this is the first part of the second hill, or the second hill. It was pretty intense. This was actually pretty easy to make it up, but the second part was pretty intense. It was a steeper incline than the first one, but it was a shorter incline, which definitely made it more manageable. So as you can tell, the pack has definitely broken up. Now the riders at the top, I'm able to stay with the group at 250 plus watts. So right now I'm feeling really good about where my position at. My heart rate has dramatically dropped. Not having to kill myself, so I'm actually feeling pretty good at this point, and I still have a lot of juice left for the end of the race. So I got a feather power up. This was perfect. This is exactly what I wanted for this final push. The second part of this second hill. This was going to be a steep one. It was going to be an intense ride, and I had a strategy that I was going to push through on this race, on this hill, as much as possible. In the last possible moment, at the steepest part of the hill, I would actually use my feather power up. So I felt pretty good about where I was positioned. Right now I'm in 8th place. The goal is to stay in the top 10, but even at the top 10, the pace has kind of broken up. I mean, the group has kind of broken up a little bit. Do have to do some work just to get up there with the front wheel, because I don't want to be in a position where there's a mad sprint and I'm not prepared for it. So as you can see now, I'm constantly 450 plus watts, and we're on the peak of a hill. So Right now, everybody is definitely starting to push. I know on the other side of this hill, if there's a steep incline, then on the other side of the hill, there's a steep decline, which with me being a heavier rider should definitely give me an opportunity to rest. As you can see, I cut my feather on, so I'm positioned really, really well right now. Right now, I'm in the top three. I'm with the top three. Um, I'm thinking in my head that the other runners are super fatigued at this point. So this incline, this decline, should definitely give me a rest. With me being a heavier runner, as you can see, I actually stopped pedaling. Um, Give myself a chance to recover where the other runners are. Still having the pedal. You're trying to get away. I'm okay. I feel like I'm positioned well now. Other riders are starting to catch me, which is fine. As long as I'm still in striking distance, I feel pretty good. The one thing I noticed is that the little arrow tuck that you used to get, I guess with this last update, it's not nearly as effective because these riders are just pulling away from me. So mid decline, I'm having to start pedaling just to close the gap. So a few more small hills as we edge closer and closer to the finish line. The pack has pretty much been broken up. Again, I try to hover in top 10, but there's several times throughout this race that I was in first place. But the key with me being in first place is I didn't really feel fatigued having to get there. I felt actually pretty good and positioned pretty well. Um, Another fairly steep hill. It was a very short hill, but it was pretty steep. People start cutting on feathers. I have the arrow boost, but again, I don't really need it. There goes another breakaway. Like every hill, I don't know if it's this same rider, but this dude tries to break away. So I do cut on my arrow boost to try to close the gap. I do close the gap without having to expend myself. As you can see, my heart rate's still hovering in that 104. If I got to the 180s, I would probably be in trouble because my body wouldn't be able to process the lactic acid out of my bloodstream, so my legs and my muscles would start tightening up. But I'm pretty cool right here. So this is definitely the final piece of the race. The mad dash is about to start. Here it's who has the best sprinting power. And with all the strength work and conditioning work I've been doing over the last several weeks, I'm feeling much, much more confident. And fortunately, I'm able to run all the runners down, or the riders down. I'm sorry, I'm a track coach, so I keep saying runners. I use runners and rider interchangeably. But you guys know I mean riders. As you can see, I did get the green jersey, which I am happy about that. And until next time, I think I PR'd a lot in my wattage. My FTP increased from 402 to 403 to 430. So I'm definitely happy about that. So until next time, peace.